After being together for 4 years, engaged for 8 months, I discovered the secret my fiancée hid from me. What she did and how I pushed her to it almost destroyed us forever. I'm 31 male. She's 28 fast. Our wedding is in 6 weeks. I should probably start from the beginning, but honestly, I'm still processing this mess, and I'm not even sure who's the villain here anymore. Maybe it's me. Alexa and I met at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was the quiet one in the corner, reading a book while everyone else was playing beer pong. I was immediately intrigued. Who brings a book to a party? When I approached her, she looked up with these incredible green eyes and said, "Sorry, I'm just finishing this chapter. The main character is about to make a terrible decision and I need to see how badly it goes." That should have been foreshadowing, I guess. Our relationship developed slowly. Alexa wasn't like other girls I dated. She was cautious, almost guarded. It took 3 dates before she'd even let me walk her to her door. 6 months before she introduced me to her friends. A full year before she said, "I love you" back. I chalked it up to her being careful, maybe having been hurt before. I respected her boundaries, even when my friends joked that I was dating a nun or that she was playing hard to get. Looking back, I realized I was so focused on winning her over that I never really questioned why she was so careful. The first real red flag came about 2 years in. We were at Target. You know how couples end up wandering around Target for hours buying stuff they don't need. Alexa was looking at picture frames when this guy approached us. Alexa? Alexa Mitchell? She went completely pale, like all the color drained from her face in seconds. The guy was maybe mid-30s, decent looking, wearing scrubs like he'd just gotten off a hospital shift. "I'm sorry, I think you have me confused with someone else," she said, quickly grabbing my arm. "We should go." The guy looked confused but apologetic. "Oh, I'm so sorry. You just look exactly like someone I used to know. Have a great day." As we walked away, I asked Alexa about it. She laughed it off, saying she gets that a lot. Apparently she has one of those faces. But her hands were shaking when she loaded groceries into the car. I should have pressed then. I should have asked more questions. But I was so used to Alexa being private that I've just accepted her explanation and moved on. The second incident happened during our engagement party last year. Alexa's family flew in from Oregon. Her parents, her sister Emma, and her teenage brother Jake. They're lovely people. But I noticed something odd during the toasts. Her dad, speaking about Alexa's childhood, mentioned how proud he was of her fresh start and how she'd overcome so much. Her mom quickly elbowed him, and he changed the subject. When I asked Alexa about it later, she said her dad had been referring to her anxiety issues in college.
"I went through a rough patch junior year,"
she explained.
"Depression, panic attacks. My parents still worry about me sometimes."
It made sense. Alexa did have anxiety. I'd seen her have panic attacks when she got overwhelmed. But something about the way her family looked at each other during that conversation felt off. Everything came to a head 3 days ago. Alexa had been working late a lot recently. She's a graphic designer and had landed this huge corporate contract. She'd been staying at the office until 9 or 10 p.m., coming home exhausted and stressed. Wedding planning had basically fallen on me, which I didn't mind, but I was starting to feel like I was planning a wedding by myself. Last Tuesday, I decided to surprise her at work with dinner from her favorite Thai place. I'd called ahead to make sure she was still there, and her colleague Marcus confirmed she was buried in the conference room with proofs. The building was mostly empty when I arrived around 8 p.m. I signed in with the security guard and took the elevator to the 7th floor. The office was dark except for the conference room at the far end. As I walked toward it, I could hear Alexa's voice. She sounded upset, almost crying. "I can't keep doing this, David. It's not fair to him. The wedding is in 6 weeks and he deserves to know the truth." I stopped dead in my tracks. "David?" I didn't know any David in her life. A male voice responded, "Alexa, we've been over this. You've built a good life. Why risk destroying it now?" "Because I love him," Alexa's voice cracked, "and this secret is eating me alive. Every time he talks about our future, about having kids, about growing old together, I feel like such a fraud." My stomach dropped. I pressed myself against the wall outside the conference room, trying to process what I was hearing. David's voice was gentler now. "What you did was survival, not fraud. You were protecting yourself." Was I? Or was I just being a coward? Alexa sighed heavily. "He thinks he knows me, David. He has no idea who I really am, what I've done." I stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, my mind racing. What secret could be so big that thought it would destroy our relationship? Was she having an affair with this David? Had she been married before? Did she have a criminal record? The conversation continued, but I couldn't make out the details. Something about the trial and starting over, and what if he finds out from someone else? I left the building without delivering the food, driving around the city for 2 hours trying to make sense of what I'd heard. When I got home, Alexa was already there, claiming she'd left work early because she had a headache. I almost confronted her that night. The words were right there on the tip of my tongue, but something held me back. Maybe cowardice, maybe the fear that once I opened that door, there'd be no going back. The next day, I did something I'm not proud of. I went through Alexa's laptop while she was in the shower. I know. It's a violation of privacy. It's toxic behavior. I hate that I did it. But I was desperate for answers, and clearly Alexa wasn't going to give them to me voluntarily. Most of her files were work-related, but buried in a folder labeled Tax Documents was a subfolder called Legal. Inside were PDFs that made my blood run cold. Court documents, restraining orders, police reports, all with the name Alexa Elizabeth Morrison. Not Alexa Mitchell, the name I'd known her by for 4 years. As I read through the documents, a horrific picture emerged. Alexa had been married before, to a man named Ryan Morrison. The marriage had started normally, but had quickly devolved into a nightmare of emotional and physical abuse. The police reports detailed multiple domestic violence calls, escalating incidents, hospitalizations. The final document was a restraining order filed just 5 years ago, 3 months before I'd met Alexa. In it, she detailed how Ryan had threatened to kill her if she ever left him, how he'd isolated her from friends and family, how he'd convinced her she was worthless, and that no one would ever love her. The last page showed that Ryan Morrison had been sentenced to 2 years in prison for aggravated assault and violation of a restraining order. 2 years. Which meant he'd been out for 3 years now. I sat there staring at these documents, trying to reconcile the Alexa I knew with the woman described in these reports. The Alexa who flinched sometimes when I raised my voice. The Alexa who always insisted on separate bank accounts for independence. The Alexa who'd taken almost a year to feel comfortable staying overnight at my place. It all made sense now. That evening, I confronted her. Not about snooping through her computer, I was too ashamed to admit that, but about the conversation I'd overheard. "Who's David?" I asked as she was making dinner. The wooden spoon clattered to the floor. "What?" "Last night at your office, I brought Thai food to surprise you, but I heard you talking to someone named David about secrets and our wedding." Alexa's face went through about 5 different expressions before settling on resignation. She turned off the stove and sat down heavily at our kitchen table. "David is my lawyer," she said quietly. "He helped me with my situation before I met you." "What situation?" She was quiet for so long I thought she might not answer. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "I was married before to someone who hurt me very badly." The next 2 hours were the most painful of our relationship. Alexa told me everything about Ryan, about the abuse, about fleeing to a different state and changing her name, about the constant fear that he would find her, even now. "David thinks I should tell you because Ryan gets out next month," she said, tears streaming down her face. "He's been writing to me in prison. The letters find me somehow, even though I've moved twice since he was sentenced." "Next month?" I stared at her. "Alexa, his sentence was up 3 years ago." Her head snapped up. "What? No, that's impossible." David said, "I saw the court documents. He was sentenced to 2 years. He's been out since 2021. The color drained from Alexa's face again, just like that day at Target. "That's impossible. David would have told me. The victim services coordinator would have notified me." But even as she said it, I could see the doubt creeping in, the realization that maybe the system had failed her, that maybe Ryan had been free this whole time while she lived in fear of a ghost. We spent the next day making phone calls. The victim services office had no record of Alexa's current contact information. Apparently, when she moved the second time, she'd forgotten to update her address with them. Ryan Morrison had indeed been released in March 2021, just 2 years into his sentence for good behavior. He'd been free for 3 years, 3 years during which Alexa had been looking over her shoulder for someone who was already out there. The really sick part? David, her lawyer, knew. He'd known for 3 years and hadn't told her because he thought it was better for her mental health to believe Ryan was still locked up. When we confronted David, he was unapologetic. She was finally building a normal life, he said. Why traumatize her with information she couldn't do anything about? Alexa fired him on the spot. Now here's where I have to be honest about my own failures in this situation. My first reaction wasn't compassion or understanding. It was hurt. Hurt that she'd lied to me for 4 years. Hurt that she'd shared this with her lawyer, but not with me, her fiancé. Hurt that she'd let me plan a wedding while keeping this massive secret. How could you not tell me? I demanded after we left David's office. We're supposed to be partners. We're supposed to be getting married in 6 weeks. I was trying to protect you, she said, and myself. I wanted to be Alexa Mitchell, not Alexa Morrison. I wanted to be the woman you fell in love with, not the victim of domestic violence. But they're the same person. Are they? She looked at me with such sadness. Would you have asked me out if you'd known? Would you have pursued a relationship with someone who came with that much baggage? I wanted to say yes immediately. I wanted to be the kind of man who would say, of course, absolutely, without hesitation. But I hesitated. And in that moment of hesitation, Alexa saw everything she needed to see. She didn't break up with me that day, but something fundamental shifted between us. The easy intimacy we'd built over 4 years felt fragile suddenly, like we were walking on eggshells around each other. I threw myself into research, reading everything I could about domestic violence and trauma responses. I learned about why victims sometimes don't disclose their past, about the shame and fear that can persist long after the physical danger is gone. I read about how many women are killed by ex-partners, how leaving is often the most dangerous time. The more I learned, the more I understood Alexa's choices, and the more ashamed I became of my initial reaction. Meanwhile, Alexa was dealing with the reality that Ryan had been free for 3 years. We installed a security system in our apartment, changed the locks. Alexa started parking in different spots at work each day and varying her routes home. The wedding planning ground to a halt. How do you pick out centerpieces when you're worried about your fiancé's psychotic ex-husband showing up at the ceremony? Then, last week, he did show up. Not at the wedding, at Alexa's work. I got the call around 2 p.m. on Thursday. Alexa, barely coherent through tears and panic, saying Ryan had been in the lobby of her building, asking the security guard about her. He told them he was my brother, she sobbed. He had flowers. The guard thought it was sweet and told him what floor I worked on before someone from our office recognized the name and called security. By the time I got there, the police had arrived and Ryan was gone. The security footage showed a man who looked nothing like the mugshot from 5 years ago. He'd lost weight, grown his hair out, looked almost normal, which somehow made it more terrifying. The police were sympathetic, but limited in what they could do. He hadn't technically done anything illegal. The original restraining order had expired, and he hadn't approached Alexa directly or made any threats. We can increase patrols in the area, the officer said, but unless he violates his parole or makes direct contact, our hands are tied. That night, Alexa didn't sleep at all. Neither did I. We lay in bed listening to every sound in the hallway, jumping at car doors slamming outside. Around 3 a.m., she turned to me and said, I can't do this to you. This isn't the life you signed up for. Don't, I said. Don't make that decision for me. Look at us, she whispered. We're prisoners in our own home. You're walking around like you're scared of your own shadow. This is what life with me looks like. Always looking over our shoulders, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. I wanted to argue, but she wasn't wrong. The past week had been exhausting and terrifying, and this was just the beginning. Ryan wasn't going to disappear just because we wanted him to. Friday morning, Alexa didn't go to work. She called in sick and spent the day researching witness protection programs and new identities. When I came home, she had printouts spread across our dining table. I could move to another state, she said without looking up. Change my name again. Start over somewhere he'll never find me. What about us? Finally, she met my eyes. What about us, Michael? Really think about it. Is this the life you want? Constantly moving, always hiding, never feeling safe? You want kids someday. Do you want to raise them in fear? I sat down across from her, looking at all these documents about disappearing, about becoming someone else entirely. The Alexa Morrison in these police reports, I said finally. Tell me about her. Alexa blinked, clearly not expecting that question. What do you mean? I mean, you keep talking about her like she's a different person, like she's someone you left behind. But she's not, is she? She's part of you. She survived something horrible and found a way to build a life afterward. That's not someone to be ashamed of. That's someone to be proud of. Alexa started crying then, really crying. I was so weak. I stayed with him for 3 years. I believed him when he said I was worthless, that no one would ever love me. I let him isolate me from everyone who cared about me. That's not weak. That's trauma. That's what abusers do. They systematically destroy your self-worth until you can't imagine a life without them. The fact that you got out at all makes you the strongest person I know. She was quiet for a long time. Then, I should have told you from the beginning. Maybe, but I understand why you didn't. I understand why you wanted to be Alexa Mitchell instead of Alexa Morrison. Hell, maybe I needed to be with Alexa Mitchell for a while before I was ready to handle Alexa Morrison. And now? I looked at this woman I've been with for 4 years, seeing her clearly for maybe the first time. Not the mysterious, guarded woman I'd spent so much energy trying to win over, but a survivor who'd rebuilt herself from nothing, who'd been brave enough to love again despite every reason not to trust. Now I want to marry Alexa Morrison Mitchell, all of her, the parts that are scared and the parts that are strong, the parts that survived hell and the parts that somehow still believe in happily ever after. I was so weak. I stayed with him for 3 years. I believed him when he said I was worthless, that no one would ever love me. I let him isolate me from everyone who cared about me. That's not weak. That's trauma. That's what abusers do. They systematically destroy your self-worth until you can't imagine a life without them. The fact that you got out at all makes you the strongest person I know. She was quiet for a long time. Then, I should have told you from the beginning. Maybe, but I understand why you didn't. I understand why you wanted to be Sarah Mitchell instead of Sarah Morrison. Hell, maybe I needed to be with Sarah Mitchell for a while before I was ready to handle Sarah Morrison. And now? I looked at this woman I'd been with for 4 years, seeing her clearly for maybe the first time. Not the mysterious, guarded woman I'd spent so much energy trying to win over, but a survivor who'd rebuilt herself from nothing, who'd been brave enough to love again despite every reason not to trust. Now I want to marry Sarah Morrison Mitchell, all of her, the parts that are scared and the parts that are strong, the parts that survived hell and the parts that somehow still believe in happily ever after. We're not canceling the wedding. We're not running away to a different state. We're not letting Ryan Morrison dictate our lives anymore. But we are making changes. Sarah's started therapy with someone who specializes in domestic violence survivors. We've hired a security consultant who's helping us develop safety protocols without turning our lives into a prison. The wedding venue has been briefed about the situation and will have additional security that day. Most importantly, we're being honest with each other. Really honest. Sarah's told me things about her first marriage that are hard to hear. I've admitted that part of me was attracted to her guardedness because it made me feel special to be the one she opened up to. We're both recognizing that we have work to do. Her on trusting me completely, me on loving her unconditionally. Ryan sent flowers to our apartment yesterday with a note that said, "Congratulations on your upcoming wedding." We turned it over to the police immediately. They're finally taking the situation seriously and working on getting a new restraining order in place. The sick part is I almost feel grateful to Ryan for showing up at Sarah's work. Not because I wanted to put her through that trauma, but because it forced us to deal with the elephant in the room that we've been dancing around for years. Alexa isn't broken goods. She isn't damaged or difficult or too much trouble. She's a woman who survived something horrific and built a beautiful life anyway. The fact that she chose to share that life with me, all of it, even the scary parts, is the greatest honor I've ever received. We're getting married in 3 weeks. Alexa Morrison Mitchell and Michael Chen. No more secrets, no more shame, no more living in fear. Ryan Morrison can show up or not. Either way, he's already lost. He tried to destroy Alexa 5 years ago and failed. He's not going to succeed now. Update, posted 2 days later. Holy shoot, Reddit! I did not expect this post to blow up the way it did. Thank you for all the supportive comments and messages. A few people asked for an update, so here it is. First, Ryan Morrison has been arrested. Turns out the congratulations flowers weren't his first violation of the implicit no-contact expectation. The police discovered he'd been sending Alexa emails to an old address that was auto-forwarding to her current account. She never saw them because they were going straight to spam, but the digital trail was enough to establish a pattern of harassment. Combined with the workplace visit and the flowers, they had enough to charge him with stalking. He's looking at 18 months minimum, possibly more if they can prove he violated other conditions of his parole. Alexa's new lawyer, we fired David, obviously, says we have a strong case for a permanent restraining order this time. But the real update is about Alexa and me. The wedding is off. Before you panic, we're not breaking up. We're still getting married. We're just not having the wedding we'd planned. After reading your comments, especially from other domestic violence survivors, Alexa realized she didn't want Ryan to have the power to change our plans at all. She didn't want our wedding day to be about security protocols and watching for threats. She wanted it to be about us. So, we're eloping. This weekend. To a little cabin in the mountains where we took our first weekend trip together. Just us, an officiant, and a photographer Alexa's sister recommended. I don't want to marry you because I'm scared, she told me yesterday. I want to marry you because I'm finally not scared. For the first time in 6 years, I feel safe enough to plan for the future without looking over my shoulder. We'll have a party later for friends and family. But right now, we just want to be married. We want to start our life together as Mr. and Mrs. Chen. She's taking my name, which feels like its own kind of victory after everything. To everyone who shared their own stories in the comments, thank you. Alexa read every single one, and knowing she wasn't alone made all the difference. To the people who said I was an a-hole for my initial reaction, you weren't wrong. I had a lot of growing up to do. I'm still working on it. To the person who asked if I'm sure I'm ready for this, honestly, no. I'm not sure I'm ready for a lifetime of hypervigilance and therapy appointments and helping the woman I love heal from trauma I can't fully understand. But I'm sure I want to try. I'm sure she's worth it. I'm sure we're worth it. Ryan thought he could destroy Alexa's ability to love and be loved. He was wrong then, and he's wrong now. We're getting married on Saturday. No secrets, no shame, no fear. Just love. Final update. We did it, guys. We're married. The wedding was perfect. Small, intimate, exactly what we both needed. Alexa wore a simple white dress she bought online 3 days ago. I wore the suit I'd planned to wear to our original wedding. The officiant was this wonderful older woman who specializes in non-traditional ceremonies, and she somehow managed to make it feel both deeply personal and surprisingly fun. Alexa's family drove up from Oregon. My parents flew in from Seattle. We had maybe 20 people total, all of them people who've supported us through this nightmare. The best part? Sarah smiled the entire day. Not the careful, guarded smile I'd gotten used to, but the radiant, unself-conscious smile from our early days together. She looked free. Ryan is still in jail. His parole was officially revoked due to the stalking charges, so he'll be there for a while. But honestly, even if he wasn't, I don't think Alexa would be afraid anymore. She's done hiding from him, done letting him control her life from a distance. We're not naive. We know he'll probably get out eventually, and when he does, we'll deal with it. Together. But we're not organizing our entire lives around that possibility anymore. For now, we're just being married. Learning how to live without secrets, without fear, without the weight of unspoken trauma hanging over everything. Oh, and Alexa's pregnant. We found out yesterday. It's early, only about 6 weeks, but we're cautiously excited. Alexa cried when she told me, but they were happy tears this time. I never thought I'd be brave enough to bring a child into the world, she said. I was too scared I'd mess them up. or that Ryan would somehow find us, or that I'd turn out like my mother and choose the wrong man over and over again. And now I think maybe our kid deserves to have parents who fought for their love story, who didn't let the monsters win. I couldn't agree more. To everyone who followed this journey, thank you. Your support meant more than you know. To the survivors who shared their stories, you helped Alexa realize she wasn't alone, and you helped me understand what she'd been through. Life isn't perfect. We still have hard days. Alexa still has nightmares sometimes. I still struggle with wanting to fix things I can't fix. But we're building something beautiful together. Brick by brick, day by day. Ryan Morrison tried to destroy Alexa's capacity for love and trust. Instead, he inadvertently led her to the strongest love either of us has ever known. Sometimes the monsters don't win. Sometimes love is stronger than fear. Sometimes the girl gets the guy, and the guy gets the girl, and they both get the chance to write a better ending than anyone thought possible. Mrs. Alexa Morrison Chen and I are writing that better ending together, one day at a time.